Well, hello there everyone, my name is Amy, this is The Opinionated Woman, and welcome back to Crafty Reads, the series where I craft something and we talk about the last 5 books that I've read. This time I am working on, if you watched my last Crafty Reads, in that video I was winding, this yarn from the hank. So I've been working on it for a little while now, and I've got this much left. I wound the other hank last night and it wasn't as chaotic as the one that I did here. But sod's law, I got the really chaotic one on camera, but yeah, it's entertainment, okay? So this is the sweater that I'm working on. It's in the moss stitch, so it's like alternating a slip stitch and a half double crochet, and I really love the texture. And I picked this nice purple as the rest of the jumper, and I'm really excited to how this is going to come out, even though I'm probably only going to get to wear it next winter, but that's fine, it's fine. Right, let's get into the books. The first book I read was Why Be Happy When You Could Be Normal by Jeanette Winterson. And I've been wanting to pick this one up since I read Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit, which is semi-autobiographical. So I wanted to see the actual story that was based on, and this did not disappoint. So this is following Jeanette Winterson's life. She was adopted into a very religious family in Lancashire in the north of England. And she was brought up in such a suffocating situation. Like, her mother was just there, like the whole time, like being really intense. Anytime Jeanette acted out even slightly, which is what kids do, she would always tell her that the devil had led her to the wrong crib and she should have adopted the child Paul in the crib next to hers, and she'd like shame her like that. And this is before Jeanette realized she was queer and got caught with a girl. So that's a really big part of this book, her mom finding out about her being gay and then her having to come to terms with it and just not, and chucking her out when she was 16, so she had to live in a car. So yeah, the story is like very intense. It's got a lot of religious trauma, which I personally relate to a lot. I grew up Catholic and also gay, though my family were accepting, which is very, very helpful, because no one's really practicing Catholic anymore. But like her mom, like when I was a kid, my mom used to leave notes in my lunchbox, but it was like, I love you, or you are kind, you are smart, you're important, you know, that kind of stuff. The stuff that she used to leave in her lunchbox, in her shoes, just in random places in her house, were like pieces of scripture. And it was always like about the end times and like doom and gloom and all of that kind of stuff. So it's about Jeanette growing up in that environment and then getting out and funding her way through university and you know, falling in love, and then going on the discovery of finding her birth mother and why she ended up being adopted. And it was so beautifully told. Jeanette Winterson is very good at very lyrical writing, but at the same time it feels like you're having a chat with someone, because it's like, it's really deep and intimate at the same time, but with the writing that like absolutely leads you to like flipping the pages so fast. I read most of this on a train, and I finished it off in the airport, and I absolutely loved the way it ended, and I actually preferred this to Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit. This year is definitely a year for memoirs for me. I've been reading a lot of memoirs, and this one was one of my favorites. Then I read One Perfect Couple by Ruth Ware. This is her latest one, and like, I bought this at the airport. This is the perfect airport book, because it's a thriller that takes place on a tropical island. This is very much outside of my usual comfort zone, so I'm very glad I did pick it up so that I could test my boundaries a little bit, like from the thrillers that I usually pick up. So in this book we're following Lila, who is dating this guy Nico, and he's an aspiring actor, she's a scientist. They don't seem to be that well matched, to be honest, but he is trying to find fame and like in any way possible, and he gets the opportunity to go on this reality show called One Perfect Couple, and he has to go on it with his partner, obviously. So he convinces Lila to take time off work and to come on this show with him. And the premise of the show is that there will be one perfect couple by the end, and that's who will win the show. But that's not necessarily the couple that you arrived at the show with, because individuals will go home throughout the process, and then you'll be left with the winning one perfect couple at the end. So the beginning of the book is really, oh dear, what happened there? The beginning of the book is them getting on the boat, because this takes place at a resort that was only just opened on this very remote island in Indonesia. So they go on this yacht, the whole cast, they all meet on the boat, they get their cell phones taken away so they have no contact with the outside world. And they get to the island and they start the show, and they've just started filming, and we're getting into the whole swing of the whole reality show format. And all of the staff, there aren't any staff quarters there, which I thought was a little bit of an odd factor. I mean, it carried on the storyline, but at the same time it was like not that believable when it comes to like how a reality show would work. But all the support crew are on a yacht, and then they will take the person who's gotten kicked off that week, and they will take them to another island that has a helipad, and then they'll come back. So while they're on their trip going to drop off the first person that got chucked off, there is a massive storm and the boat is gone. A lot of the chalets are destroyed, and they're completely cut off from the outside world, and it turns into a survival story. And it gets gory, lots of people die, there's betrayals, there's some really scary people on the island that you didn't expect to be like these sort of characters, and people have to like band together, like the good against the bad kind of stuff. So like I said, it was a very unusual book for me to read, because I'm not usually much for a survival story, but I read most of this on the airplane and it kept me absolutely enthralled. The twist at the end was all right. It wasn't like a big major twist, but the ending was very dramatic, and I enjoyed the group that we were left with at the end. I obviously can't say too much because this is a thriller and I don't want to spoil it for you, but yet again, I loved a Ruth Ware, or I didn't love it, I liked a Ruth Ware, and she is definitely a thriller author that I'll be returning to again and again. Then on audio, I listened to My Own Worst Enemy by Lindon. I absolutely love Double Booked by Lindon. So when I saw that she had a mask on mask theater gay romance coming out, I was like, give it to me, give me the book. And it did not disappoint. So we're following Emmy, who has just graduated from her acting school. She's absolutely besotted with one of her friends that she went to school with, who just doesn't seem to want to give her the time of day. She's like sort of getting into the acting world and leaving Emmy behind. And in her spare time, Emmy is working at her dad's very kitschy pizza restaurant. And while she started to go out on auditions, and while on one audition she meets this actor called May, who looks very similar to her, and she quickly realizes like, okay, this girl is going to be competition for parts for me, because there's only so many masked lesbian parts that are, you know, going to be about, and it's very unlikely we're going to get cast in the same thing. So they start up this little rivalry, and it sort of like intensifies every time they go to a new audition, until they are cast in the same queer production of Twelfth Night, and they sort of have to have a little bit of a truce when it comes to their rivalry, and in that truce, romance blooms. It was just really well done, and Lily Lindon has this, she has a skill for really developing characters, because like her characters have immense flaws, and like sometimes you're like, no, don't do that, just use your words, communicate. But like the character needs to learn that, the character needs to develop that over time, and Emmy as a character develops really well. She's really bad at communicating, she's emotionally closed off, she's got issues when it comes to like abandonment and problems with her mother, like a difficult relationship with her. And over the book we see so much development with Emmy. It's not just focused around this like budding romance, it's a lot about Emmy as a character and her interpersonal relationships, and like how she grows through this period of her life. And it's just written so well. The characters are so dynamic in Lily Lindon books. Like the side characters all have a lot of texture and depth to them, which I really enjoyed. So yeah, I'm going to be picking up Lily Lindon till the cows come home. Then I read Warriors by Danielle Brittain, and this one was crazy. So Danielle Brittain is the team doctor for this, or was the team doctor for the South African rowing squad. And I rowed, when I went to Tux, I rowed with everyone except for him. He was around because he was training with these guys, but they were all on the Tux rowing squad. James, there's James, right? Yes, James, Matthew, and Bean, or John Smith is his name, and then Lawrence and Sean Keeling, who I used to have a huge crush on because he was built like a tree. The man was enormous and he was really nice to me, and I thought I was straight, so I really liked him, but he ended up marrying one of my crewmates from Tux. So this book was a crazy, like traveling down memory lane moment. So Danielle Brittain, the woman who wrote this book, is this guy and this guy's mom, as well as being the team doctor. And it was absolutely wild reading a book about people that I was around, because like I rowed there for about 6 months, so I wasn't around them for like an extended period of time, but I got to meet them and be around them for a bit, and to see their talent and their drive, their absolutely immense drive. So she goes through the 4 here who win gold at the London 2012 Olympics, and I remember watching that race with my mom and absolutely losing my shit, like shrieking as they won. It was so cool. They even mentioned my old high school rowing coach, which was crazy to read. But it also follows Danielle Brittain becoming the team doctor and realizing that there's something wrong with Lawrence, the one that is in the pair here. His results were starting to go downhill and they couldn't figure out why, and she really had this niggling feeling that there was something wrong. And people kept on telling her, no, it's just a performance problem, all of this kind of stuff, until eventually she puts her foot down and says, no, I'm testing him. There's something wrong, and he gets diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is absolutely crazy. Like as a professional sportsman, someone with that much drive, and because she's a doctor, the doctors tell her and her husband, who's also a doctor, about Lawrence's diagnosis first, and then she has to go home and tell him. It hurt my heart to read it, and I ended up having to go onto his Instagram profile just to remind myself that he's alive and well and in remission and like happily married and all of that stuff, because it was like hurting my heart so much to read this mother having to go through such a painful period, and for him being, how old was he, 24, getting this news. Oh, it was so hectic, but he came through it and he won silver at the Rio Olympics. And it took me back to me watching that race, because I was at cooking school that day and I really wanted to watch the race because they'd gotten to the A final, and I was like, no, I have to see this race, and I couldn't find a streaming site that was showing it. So I found on the ROSA website like a little tracker, so it would like have these little gray blobs that would move, that was showing the boats as they were in the race. And I was in my prac and I'm watching it and I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And then I realized that they've gotten silver literally like a year after he went into remission, and I fucking lost it. I was sobbing, I was like jumping up and down, and everyone around me is like, what is wrong with this bitch? And I'm like, he had cancer and they thought he was gonna die and he got a silver. So it was really funny. It must have been very entertaining for other people to see, but it was just wonderful hearing the backstory of it and the perspective from someone so close to it as, you know, his mom. It was just really emotional, and it was really lovely going down memory lane, because I have not been involved in rowing since 2009. So it was nice to look back on those times. And then finally, I finally read Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail by Ashley Herring-Blake. This is the sequel to Delilah Green Doesn't Care, which is part of the Bright Falls series, like trilogy. And this one was great. I actually think I liked it more than Delilah Green Doesn't Care, because we're following Delilah's stepsister Astrid, who's this very uptight, very intense woman who is just coming off of a big breakup with a horrible man, and she's gotten a really good professional opportunity. So she is going to be the lead designer in revamping this inn called the Everwood Inn, which is like a staple in Bright Falls, and it's going to be broadcast on a reality TV show. And I love interior design masters. Me and my mom watched a lot of interior design masters when I was with her, so this was right up my alley. I love that type of show. But as soon as she gets on set, Astrid starts butting heads with the lead carpenter Jordan Everwood, who's the granddaughter of the woman who owns the Everwood Inn, and they have very different ideas about what the inn needs to be looking like and what the vibe needs to be and what like goes along with the inn's history, and so they have a lot of conflict, but as we go through it, the rivals to lovers starts to develop, because you know there is a lot of friction between them, because there is a lot of attraction there. And Astrid doesn't know that she's queer. She's very much thought she's straight her whole life, and as a late bloomer, I really appreciate seeing someone in their 30s realizing that they're queer, because I came out as bi at 29 and I came out as a lesbian at 30. So like I love seeing a late bloomer story, but it wasn't like a big dramatic like coming out moment of like, oh, people are going to accept me, you know, like a lot of the YA types of styles. It was a lot more like personal. And obviously there's a third act conflict. There's always a third act conflict. I kind of saw what that conflict was going to be, but it sort of played out slightly differently than I expected. And then the way that it ended was the gayest thing I've ever read in my life. I was like, this is so queer, but at the same time, like, I've dated girls who would do this exact thing. And I really loved it. Like the banter and the chemistry between Jordan and Astrid is just a pleasure to read. And they're both such messes, but they also make a lot of progress when it comes to their like the issues they're dealing with and the different relationships that they got going on in their lives. And I just thought it was really well executed. So I'm really excited to read Iris Kelly Doesn't Date. Oh, and that's another thing. In Delilah Green Doesn't Care, there was a really good amount of establishment of Astrid and her character and setting us up for her book in Delilah Green Doesn't Care. And I feel like there was also a good lot of exposition of Iris Kelly and her history, and establishing a good amount of her backstory, so that we're leading into Iris Kelly Doesn't Date with a lot of knowledge about this character that we're going to then build on, which I'm really excited to read. And that is it. That is all 5 books that I've read lately. I hope you did enjoy that. I certainly did. If you want to see more from me, my Instagram and my TikTok are down below, along with my Kofi link, which is like a one-time tip jar if you want to support my channel. But other than that, like and subscribe, all of that fun stuff, and I'll check you next time.